Welcome to the Desi Mazdoor channel. In this video I'm going to describe a software product called Gentle Mouse which may help you relieve the pain associated with constant mouse usage. Even if you don't experience any kind of pain as yet, but you are working with the mouse for several hours during a day, you would benefit from using such kind of products because ultimately if you keep on using mouse for several years for several hours in a day, then I think it is kind of a given that you would start experiencing problems with that. I myself have been suffering with such issues. Most common is that I have experienced is repetitive stress injury. And I have found, apart from the ergonomic mice that I use, I have found this to be very useful. So before we go further, let's just quickly see what are the classes of problems that are usually associated with mouse usage, and then we will see how Gentle Mouse relieves the pain due to this, due to frequent mouse usage, and we will also take a quick look at Gentle Mouse. So first thing, if you see on a screen, this is a classic photograph that is shown in any of the ergonomics blogs or whatever ergonomic websites, and this is that when you are using an ordinary mouse, the one which you can see, I'm rotating my mouse on that, the mouse pointer is on that. So if you see that, then you can see that your the bones are actually crisscrossing each other. And if you use a vertical mouse, this is one class of an ergonomic mouse, but vertical mouse is something which will instead of keeping your arm in this kind of a position where the bones are kind of crisscrossing each other, it is actually going to keep your arm in a handshake position, which is supposed to be much more neutral and much more natural. So this kind of issue is going to remove the risk of carpal tunnel, and they say things like this: carpal tunnel, arthritis, and other RSI. So this is one class of the problem. Another class of problem is something called a mouse finger. And by the way, I'm just taking this information all from the web. You can independently research and check it yourself. I'm not affiliated with any of these websites. So now this is the second part, is the mouse finger. And what it does is, it's, as it says, while it is not a formally defined repetitive stress injury, it is used to describe any pain that results from extensive use of the mouse. And this is a pain in the index finger, as you can see. So what happens is, this is a pain due to repetitive left clicking. So even if you're using this kind of a mouse, the vertical mouse or an ergonomic mouse, you still have to click. And if you are doing frequent clicking with your index finger, you are at a risk of developing pain in that finger. So Gentle Mouse is actually going to resolve this issue, and I have not seen any other product so far which will help me resolve this. There are products like mouse pad and products where you have to actually use all the fingers in order to click, and so instead of putting a strain on one finger, you are kind of dividing the stress on all the fingers, but still you are still clicking, and if you have already started developing pain, then those sort of solutions are not really useful. Gentle Mouse, on the other hand, is actually going to remove the task of clicking. And how does it do that? I think you would have already seen a demo while I was trying to move my mouse, and the way is this. Let's see. So here, as you can see, as soon as I stop my mouse, a window will pop up which will say left click, right? And let me move my mouse again, and if I move my mouse towards diagonally up towards the left, it is going to pop up a few more windows. So one of the most common things that you are going to do is left click. So let me just show again. When I stop my mouse, this left click window is going to pop up. Let me stop and mouse again, and this time I'm going to stop and do a left click. So let's see how it will. I stop and then click left. You can see. So all that you have to do is, instead of actually clicking, you have to move your mouse. As soon as you stop for a very short duration, the options that you can use, they are presented, and the most common option is presented on the screen, which is left clicking. And all you have to do is you have to gently move your mouse cursor into that square. So let's see that again here, and that's it. So as you can see, we get into the FAQ. Now let's look at video tutorial. So this is how we click on the links. So that's kind of pretty simple, and I wonder why no one had ever thought of it. Now let's see what are the other things that you can do with it. So let me go back, and now let's see if I have to do a right click. So I'm going to stop, move out, right click, and you can see that there is a right click. Okay, what if I have to drag? So stop, click on left click, and I can drag if I want, and when I have to release, I just do release. So this is the basic functionality of gentle mouse, and it can be summarized as soon as you stop your mouse, there are options that pop up, and you have to choose the option that you want to do. Since when you are popping when the windows are popping up, it is going to take space on your screen, therefore they try to keep the number of windows as minimum, and we only show the most common option, which is left click first. And if you really want to try more options, you have to move your mouse in another direction. So that's all to it. Now let's see what are the configuration items. Let's go to the gentle mouse. Before that, let's go and see what exactly how we launch it. So it's kind of simple, and that's why I accidentally skipped that. You just download a gentle mouse. It's about $40 or $50. Then you download, you double click, it gets installed, but it has got no window of its own. So let me close this. This is the only window that it has. Otherwise it will be hidden, and you can launch it right at the beginning, so that you never have to left click throughout the time when you start your computer to the time when you shut it down. And this is a current setting. There are different classes of settings. I have been using this gentle mouse for about a year, and I have never had a requirement to move away from the default settings. I did customize it a little bit, but really there was not a big change in the settings. So you can just start using it out of the box. Very easy. Maybe it will take it 5 to 10 minutes, and that's about it. A bigger challenge for you would be, probably if you have been using the mouse for quite a bit of time, is to not do the left click. Just start using the software. So there is not much to learn, there is a lot to unlearn, and that's what you have to do anyway. So let's look at the options. So it is kind of there are lots of options, and it can become kind of confusing, but as I said, I didn't have to change much, and this is the only thing that you probably have to change. So these are the different settings that you can use, and you only use the default setting, and it has got general options, transparency, and this has got to do with the appearance of the window. It doesn't matter to me, I just use out of the box. There are actually lots of options: 15 pixel, how much wide, how much smaller, and I think for me the default setting works. This may be something which you may want to change, and it is the individual trigger window option. So these windows that you see, this left click and these other windows, each of these are called as trigger windows. So what you have to do is you click on this, and this is the layout of the trigger windows. So notice one of the things is this is always on your left side. All the trigger windows will appear on the left side, and what you can do is you can actually just configure what is this trigger window going to look like, what is the top right window going to look like, what is the top and top left, and so on. Each such window can be customized, and customized to what? Each such window you can make it visible, and then you can have a command, whether it is left click or right click. So for example, for me, main window is left click. Okay, the main window that comes here is left click. Then these are the windows that I have configured. So you can have you can actually choose not to use any of these windows. You can only have 3 windows, you can have 2 windows, whatever you want. You can, as many number of windows as you want, you can configure. So that's all to it. So pretty simple. And one more thing is, once you have done this trigger window, let's say as I go here and I go left press, right? So once you go left press, and then if you have to release, then there is a separate set of menus, and this is what they're talking about in the release trigger window. How would they look? So the color of the release trigger window is kind of different. It is kind of red here and blue on the regular trigger window. So they're calling it as, this is, as you can see, this is blue and this is red. So that's all to it. You can configure the various mouse commands associated with each of these, and the one what you have to ensure is that the most common mouse command is what you are configuring to the window that is visible and easier to reach. So for example, if you are doing left click, most of the time you are not going to do this top left corner because you have to move your mouse up till this point. So you will try to keep the window, the functionality that is very common to you, that should be the nearest window to the mouse pointer, and that's about it. So you can just remove the use of any kind of clicking using this software. Now let's see what is are there any downside. And yeah, there is a downside, which is I have not seen much problem due to it, but times when I'm working very quickly and sometimes I mess up or my mouse kind of falls to the ground, that is a time when it kind of becomes a problem. And the problem is this: let's say my mouse pointer is here, and if I have to move to the top left side, then I will actually left press. I'm not able to demonstrate it here because it's more like a mistake, and then if I'm consciously doing it. But the main point is, if you stop and you take your mouse cursor towards a diagonal left, you may actually hit the window which pops up like this, and then you go. That's all to it. So there is some slight amount of habit change which you may require, and that is don't stop and move in the direction where the windows can appear if you don't want to use any of the functionality. One more thing which I have seen is that if you click on this notification window, for example, I'm on this and I do a left click, let's see, this is not good example. Let's say this is software that I use, No Brainer. So I click on this left. Wait a second. Yeah, so I have done a right click on this, and this is not going to work. So the basic problem is, if there is a pop-up after you have selected an option, then the gentle mouse may not work. In this case, I just use the shortcut key. So those are the two downside issues which you probably may not face much often, but apart from that, I highly recommend this software. And as I mentioned earlier, even if you're not suffering from any kind of mouse related problems, mouse usage related problems, you may want to consider this. In fact, I just think that these things should have been thought of at first when the mouse was invented, and then a lot of us in the computer industry at least would have been saved from unnecessary problems. So I hope this has been of use to you, and you would find this information to be assist you in relieving your any kind of malaise that you have associated with usage of the mouse. If you find this useful, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your time.